Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right. Hello Jason, assuming someone runs a program that has only deadlifts, sumo or conventional, stiff leg deadlifts, pendlay rows, and lunges for back and legs, will it be possible for them to improve their squats by performing the mentioned exercises alone without ever squatting? Do these exercises have any carryover to a back squat at all? Thanks, Jason, Blaha Fitness. Longtime fan from the Philippines. You know, your question sounds to me like you're someone who is stuck at home on lockdowns where the gym's closed, who has a barbell and no rack. So that aside, let's delve into that. Given you've got a lot of variation there, okay? You can do stiff leg deadlifts. You can also do Romanian deadlifts, sumo and conventional deadlift, pendlay rows, and then you got lunges to get a little extra quad. Could it increase your squats? Could it increase your squats? Probably not if you're an advanced squatter already. Okay? Could it maintain your squats while increasing your deadlifts? Yes. The reason I say that, you don't have any movement pattern like a squat in there. But as far as the musculature goes, yes. And if you're maxing on your deadlifts, you are at least practicing maxes. So what I would say is that could you build the muscles of the squat with this? In other words, let's say you had to do this for a while. Let's say you had, I don't know, a 400 deadlift and, a 315 squat when you had to go do this at home. Assume you're more of a mid-intermediate. And you, during that time, put 50 pounds on your sumo and conventional deadlift. You get real good at lunges, build your quads up, or any isolateral leg work you can do with your barbell. It could be step-ups. You get the rows up, you get all those movements up. You put substantial amounts of muscle on your quads, and you build all the muscles of the deadlift. And you were to go back to the gym, you might only have a 300 or 310 or whatever squat when you get back when you first start, but you will have built the musculature to get your squat up very quickly. It would not surprise me in this circumstance, if you were forced to do this, it wouldn't surprise me if you put 50 or 60 pounds on your squat within a few months. In other words, you might take that, would have been a 315, might drop to a little lower. It wouldn't surprise me if you brought it all the way up to 365 at that point when you start training the squat over the course of 2 or 3 months. Okay, as you get more of the specific muscles involved directly with the squat down, the intramuscular coordination and everything down with the squat. So the answer is yes and no. Could it indirectly help you build the squat in the future if you can't squat? Sure. But without performing any squatting at all, the movement patterns of a squat at all they're going to be off a little bit. You may not quite be there, but it will give you the foundation to come in and build your squat very, very quickly. So good question, by the way, and I think it's very fitting given a lot of people's world situation with limited equipment throughout all of this year. All right, next question. Purely from the point of maintaining lean muscle mass during lockdowns, do you think an advanced lifter could keep all their muscle, providing adequate nutrition and sleep by using heavy-duty thermoplastic resistance bands and bodyweight exercises, or is hypertrophy inevitable? I think you meant atrophy on the latter. This is a tough one. An advanced lifter, like, are we talking about a 300 bencher, 400 plus squatter, 500 puller? You're not going to be able to maintain all your leg and back hypertrophy off those. And it is a matter of logistics with bands. And I know because I've had a lot of lifters during lockdown. Strongest example, one of my guys on lockdown who had no free weights, he had a kettlebell, some bands, and a box, was a 500 squatter. And he had to go 10 weeks without squatting, and his squat dropped to 450. Right? His just over 500 deadlift dropped down to, again, mid 400s. His bench we maintained decently well, all things considered. Like, his bench was still above 300, but the lower body lifts just dropped. And it's because you run into issues with the heavy bands. Like, guys are like, well, couldn't I just get several of those big, thick rogue bands you have, couldn't I put 300 pounds of band tension across my shoulders and squat it? No. No, 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 no. That's not going to happen. Again, you start putting 100 plus pounds of bands across your shoulder of actual real tension, and you try to squat that, I think you're going to find it very uncomfortable. You talk about putting 300 pounds of bands across your shoulders and neck, it's just not going to happen. Same thing when we get over to deadlifting or any of these movements where you're trying to maintain all your muscle. Some of it's just going to be too damn hard. Now, body weight stuff, with bands, with dips, with pull-ups, and enough band accessory work, you can do a lot with your upper body. Okay, you can do a lot for lats. You could even, to some extent, maintain erectors with banded good mornings with a lot of reps. But where you're really going to struggle, where you're going to struggle is going to be the lower body. And I mean, I'm not going to say none of my guys came out of this strong. Like one of my lifters, we put him right into conjugate after I think he had 12 weeks of no weights. But he did have weights, so he had a barbell. I think he was just limited to something like 165 pounds. That was his total barbell. Okay. We did a lot of he clean to good mornings. A lot of work off the floor. He came in, he hit a 500 deadlift his second week, so we maxed on a squat first. But his second week we maxed on a deadlift, and he came back and hit a 500 deadlift. But keeping in mind that guy deadlifts 545 now. But, again, he maintained deadlift, but he had a barbell. Okay, we did a lot of step-ups, a lot of Romanian deadlifts, a lot of rows, a lot of pull-ups. He had a little table he could kind of box squat to, so we did speed boxes. He at least had plates to go with his bands. He had some weights and a barbell. It made a big difference. But guys who don't have any weights with just purely bands, you're just not going to be able to do it. The logistics of even hooking up the bands and attaching them to maintain any sort of advanced lifter's lower body, it's just not going to happen. And even then you're like, couldn't I just do more reps? Again, try doing 50 reps with 100 pounds of bands across your neck or shoulders is to try to replicate squats. It's just not logistically, and from a pain and tearing skin and everything else, is just not really going to happen. All right, next question and last question of the week. Hey Jason, do you think back off sets using the same exercise with 80 to 85% of 1 rep max is a good idea after the main max lift? For example, more box squats or deadlifts or both? Depends on the person and what you're doing with your programming. For someone who's going to do a lot of accessory work, probably not. And am I doing that right now, though? I'm doing that. It's exactly what I'm doing. I work with usually 85% on, say, the squat or the deadlift after maxing on both. However, my lower body accessory volume at the moment is relatively low. Okay, relatively low. I do maybe 3 exercises, and 2 of those being reverse hypers and glute ham raises. So in my case, I'm doing that. Have I taken lifters to a 500 squat without doing that? Yes. Do I have lifters who need the extra squat practice? Yes. I have lifters who cannot get to a 500 squat. Multiple lifters who are stuck in the 400s who I have to add more squat on their max effort days. I have to. They can't get there without it. But I've also taken several lifters up past 500, just doing, as far as their squatting and pulling goes, doing nothing but max and speed work, but then we use a lot of supplemental hypertrophy. I did that. Now I'm doing something different now as at where I'm at, but I got past a 500 squat again, 500 box squat, doing that. Okay, you guys saw me get up into the 500s on a squat by doing exactly that without the back off work. So what I'm going to say is, I think it largely depends on the lifter. I think it largely depends on the lifter if you need more than the max and the speed work on these sort of lifts. And again, it's going to come down to how much supplemental work are you doing. Because if you go that route and you say, okay, I'm going to do back off triples with 85 or back off fives with 80% on my squats and deadlifts after maxing, you're going to be very, very, very limited on supplemental work. Okay, you're going to have recovery issues if you try to do a lot of supplemental volume. You're going to have to be very picky with what you put in there. And if you're willing to do that, it's fine. It's workable. It can work great. In fact, I'm making good gains doing exactly that. But I've also done it the other way without it, and a lot of my lifters have. But some of my lifters do seem to need it. So it's really going to be context based. Do I think it's good? Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Again, as long as it fits into your overall programming and recovery. Okay, and that's what you have to look at. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.